It's lunchtime, so what is it going to be? A hot dog? Or maybe some nice Middle Eastern food. I kind of like that one. And what we're going to talk about now is not the food itself, but what it is wrapped in. And this is the issue. At least it is for some people. Because of course all of these sandwich kind of things from fast food industry are both fatty and moist. So you want some kind of a wrap that does not get all wet and it doesn't get all greasy. That's not very appetizing. So how do you do that? That, believe me, is quite a chemical challenge to make wrapping paper or any other substance resistant to both moisture and resistance to fat. But it can be done. And in order to do that, you need a special kind of molecule. And I have a model of that. These are so-called alkyl molecules. So you have an alkane chain, as we call them. And they have lots of fluorines on them. The green represent fluorine atoms. And these are really polyfluorinated compounds because we have so many fluorines. And it is this carbon-fluorine bond that actually makes this resistant to moisture and fat. But there's a problem here. And the problem is that these molecules don't degrade easily in the environment. They are very, very persistent. And furthermore, there are some animal studies whereby if you feed the animals these substances, they do come down with all kinds of problems. There's thyroid problems, reproductive problems, etc. However, it should be pointed out that just giving a large dose of something to an animal does not parallel what happens in a human who are exposed to very, very small doses. However, there was a study that came out that caused a lot of scaremongering, actually. And this study showed that 46% of all food wraps that were tested, no matter which fast food company they came from, contained some of these molecules. Of course, they didn't test exactly what version of the molecules they contained, because it turns out that if you have the shorter ones that contain only about 4 carbons on the chain, those degrade quite quickly, and they are far less worrisome in terms of toxicity. But they never tested for that. They just said 46% of all of these wraps contain these substances that in animals can cause problems. Well, that resulted in headlines like this. Not only is it the fast food that can kill you, it's also the wrapper. The usual kind of overstatement. I mean, this is just nonsense, because the test did not take into account whether or not any of these chemicals actually end up in the body and how much ends up in the bloodstream. And that, of course, is what is really important. So when it comes to looking at these wraps and worrying about whether or not the wrap has transferred any of the chemicals to the food, what you need to do is find out whether or not any of those chemicals get into the body and just how much. I think that there's a lot more reason to worry about what is in the food than what it is wrapped in. There's lots of salt, lots of fat, there's lots of sugar in there. But hey, it's lunchtime, and I'm not really worried about those chemicals. What can I tell you? That's a wrap.